Please check if you've unmuted your mic.
May I know your name? I'm afraid
That's
you're...
it. That's
I'm
it.
Vidya. I'm Vidya Murli.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Vidya Muralidharan. I'm going to be
Hi,
the moderator
Vidya.
for this
Hi,
session.
Vidya.
Hi. So you've got a
Vidya,
lovely...
Should I be using my earphones?
Actually, I'm on.
You're quite loud and clear to me. If you're, whatever you're comfortable with. But as of now, the audio is fine.
Just in case, let's just...
Yes. So, Zindika, is that how you pronounce your name? Have I got
Zindika,
it right?
yes. Zindika, that's fine, yes.
Okay. You have a beautiful background behind you. Is that live?
Yes, I thought I would bring the Caribbean vibes. The two palm trees.
Wow.
Yes, that's actually the background on Zoom. That's a Zoom background. Not actually there. I wish I was.
Okay. So let's get started. So each of you would get about 12 minutes since we have overall about half an hour for the session. So let me do a quick introduction. I won't take too much time. I think, Zindika, you go first.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
So good day to all of you out there. A very warm welcome to this web session. The topic for today's session is Writing to Heal. And we've got two very lovely ladies here with some very, very illustrious backgrounds, as I could see from their profiles, to talk to us. And I guess it's so relevant that they are speaking to us because the kind of work they've done is amazing. So to start with, we have Zindika Kamashi. She is an author, a speaker. She's authored 6 books, I believe. Transformational writing is what she does. Uses writing as therapy. That's really intriguing for me. So over to you, Zindika. Before that, let me also briefly introduce Dimple Kaul. Dimple Kaul is, again, your life story is very, very inspiring, Dimple, having gone through so many challenges and how you beautifully converted life challenges into a healing experience. It's really nice. And I saw you describe yourself as learner, observer, marketer, and writer, and life enthusiast. That's beautiful. So Dimple has had a wonderful career in the corporate world, and then a second career, she's doing social enterprise, and now all poised to enter the field of education more as a social responsibility. So she again is a writer, and she uses, I guess, a lot of her experiences, life experiences and observations to, she brings them into her writing. So over to you. Let's start with Zindika.
Right. Hi. Yes, hello. Really, thank you. Thank you for offering us this platform, really. And I think you guys there are really amazing. The work that you're doing, it's really amazing. Yes, I also want to say, hello to the global community. And I hope that you've all been, taking inspiration and getting good stimulation in terms of the discussions and the presentations that you've been hearing. I certainly have been dipping into quite a few of them. So so I'm just going to launch straight into telling you a little bit about myself and my story. I tell you a little story about myself. Well, I'm Zindika. I'm an author, and I'm also a playwright. Sometimes I forget to say I'm also a playwright. I'm an author of 7 books, and also a playwright for 4 plays, for actually performed and produced plays. So I thought I would start off to talk about writing to heal from a perspective of my own life, really, just to talk a little bit about something that happened to me a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago or so. And I was in a job, and I was in this job for 5 years. But after year 2 in the job, I was really, you could say, it was time to move on. But I didn't move on. Year 2, year 3, I didn't move on. And the job was one where I felt really undermined. I felt really, ignored. I felt isolated in the work I was doing and in the job. And so I had no reason to stay there, really. There was no inspiration for me there, but I kept on. Something I couldn't sort of put myself into action enough to leave. And eventually, after, feeling really miserable, year 3, year 4, I was feeling miserable. Year 5, I was totally miserable, and I was still there. And eventually, at the beginning of year 6 of me being in that job, the manager called me into her office. She'd already put out some sort of warning that, oh yeah, things are going to change around here. And so I kind of expected that something was happening. But anyway, she called me into her office and she said, oh yes, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to let you go. And I'm sorry that this has come at such a bad time for you, because I've having just lost your mother, because I'd lost my mother in year 5 of the job. So I was grieving, you know, still in the process of grieving as well. And of course, now this was another loss for me, you know, being told, you know, you're going to lose your job. So of course, that, you know, to cut a long story short, that was a devastating time for me. And I left, obviously I had to leave the job. And when I left, I realized that it had such a huge impact on me, on my health. And it got to the point where I actually, it went on for a few weeks after, you know, afterwards. And I was thinking I can cope with this. But eventually I had to go to the hospital because I was actually, you know, experiencing extreme anxiety and even to the point of a bit of panic attack, which I'd never experienced in my life before. So all of this was totally new to me. There were things that were happening in my body that was totally new. And so I did actually eventually end up going to the hospital just to check it out. So when I got there, everything was, yeah, you're okay. Everything is, it's not that bad, but you do need to calm down, and we could give you some tablets. Of course, that was a point in my life when I realized that I needed serious healing. You know, I needed to heal myself. And apart from needing to heal myself, I needed to take, you know, take some control of my life and take some control of my health, my own health. So I realized that when I was in that job for 5 years, that's what I'd been neglecting. I'd been neglecting myself, neglecting my mind, neglecting my body, my health, everything was just being neglected. So here I was coming to that realization. That's what I should have been doing all along, paying more attention to myself. And so, you know, when it comes to, you know, how does healing and writing go together? I have to say that for me, the realization as well was that I realized as well that that loss that I'd experienced then had actually gone all the way back into my childhood. And sometimes when you're an adult and you're experiencing problems, if you look back and start to analyze your childhood, you realize that a lot of that does go back to childhood experiences. And so I started to look back and I realized that I myself had experienced loss all the way through my childhood. And of course, I'm a migrant. I was a migrant child to the UK. So I actually did see my parents till I was about 10 years old. So before that, I actually didn't really know them. So that was a huge loss, of course. It is for any child, you know, to not have their parent. So that was a huge loss from very early in my childhood. And as I examined, I realized that in other various losses, you know, through my upbringing, you know, as I grew up. So that drew me towards thinking about, you know, how all of this has to do with writing. And I realized as well that at the end of that, after having gotten out of that job, I then actually I started realizing what it is I needed to do. I actually ended up creating an inspirational writing blog straight away. And that was based on me talking about some of the issues that we can have when we're not allowing ourselves to breathe, really. And I also, in that process, in the next year or so, wrote 2 books. And I realized in that time, when I was stuck in that job, I actually had 2 books inside of me that I should have been writing. And I'd actually just ignored them, really. And so what I realized about my books as well is that to the extent to which a recurring theme in my writing was always that whole issue of loss. And sometimes we don't see these things, really, because we're so busy. But when you write, you begin to see these things. And these are some of the issues that actually get drawn out and played out in your writing. And even as a writer, sometimes you may not realize it. But I know that migration was obviously a big impact for me, and it actually left an impact on me. And therefore, I actually was finding out that the writing that I was doing was playing that out. So therefore, I sort of think to myself, why, why do we need to write to heal? Because I realized that I wrote my first book when I was about 10 years old. And the reason I needed to write that book was because I needed to have a process or a way of self-expressing. And when you self-express, that is healing. And so for me, writing became that. It became that route, that method, that method of self-expression. I had no other method, really, of self-expression. And I come from a community as well where, you have to, it's a whole respect for older generations. So you couldn't speak back. You had to keep yourself quiet to some extent. So, yeah, so I found that writing was my mode of self-expression. And I actually wrote a novel when I was about 10 years old. I mean, it doesn't exist anymore, that novel, but that was one of the things I did. I had a diary as well when I was that age, just because I felt like I needed that way of expressing myself. And it was healing. And I realized now that as I went through some of these processes and actually grew into my career as a writer, I could see how all of that played out in terms of emotions. And I realized that when you talk about writing and healing, what it is it's actually about self-expression and how that heals you. It's also about emotions as well, because when you write, you're actually getting in touch with your emotions. And as a writer, you have to go to that place that is not your mundane, everyday place. You have to go to a higher place. You have to go to a place within. And that's when I started to discover about that ability that writing has to heal us, because we actually visit somewhere that most ordinary people who don't write or who are not creative in general probably never go there. And I realized that I had the ability to go there. And by having that ability to go there, I could actually use that to heal myself. Or to, also when you write as well, you actually begin to heal others as well, because by others reading your writing, they also can find healing in it. So I sort of take this also back to the whole issue of migration as well. And I think migrants, they are people who always have losses in their lives, because as a migrant, first thing that happens is you do lose you lose your family when you migrate, unless you're lucky enough to migrate with everybody, and you lose the country as well. So immediately as a migrant, you move to a new country, you have losses immediately. And then, of course, when you get into your new country as a migrant, you experience things like having the worst jobs, having to do the night shift, having to cope with cultural differences, and of course, racism and things like issues like that, all is piled on top of all of that. So I have, being that, as I said, I arrived in UK as a migrant child, I have really, really, the whole life and experience of a migrant. I have really deep understanding and care about that. And really, what I like to do really is to talk to people and think about, well, how can we help each other? How can we write? How can we write our stories? How can we tell our lives? Because a lot of people actually don't realize that we have a life story even before we venture into another country. And remember, migration is here to stay. Countries all over the world rely on migrants. Particularly those countries in the West, they rely on migration. So even though people talk about migrants not being wanted, they are very much wanted. So let's not get that out of perspective, that they are very much needed and wanted in these countries, but they need to be aware of their lives and how they're going to live that life and how they're going to integrate that life into their new country. And to me, writing is one way that I've found for myself and others that has really helped to really start to alleviate some of those issues to do with writing. And as I said, writing is healing. When you write, you heal, you help to heal yourself, and you also help to heal others who are going to eventually read your writing.
Wonderful.
Yes, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about the time. I'm trying to sort of.
I think you're just
track of the
bang
time.
on time. Bang on
it's
time.
Probably about right.
Wonderful. That was very poignant sharing, very touching. Thank you so much, Nandika. Wonderful. And I think some of the experiences Dimple is also able to relate to in terms of moving out of her, where you lose your roots. And I'm sure she relates to it. I'd like to hear from Dimple now. Over to you. Thank you so much, Indika. Please stay on. Please stay on. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you, Vidyaji. Zindika, that was so poignant. And as Vidyaji rightly pointed out, it does resonate with me. And I am definitely going to be in touch with you soon after the talk itself. Now, let me just address the audience that would be there today or might watch us later someday. Namaste. Your interest in attending this session on writing to heal indicates your inclination towards creating a world that is healed, whole, and complete. And that to me represents your commitment to reconnect, reboot, and reset, the theme of this wonderful digital summit organized by Women Economic Forum. I thank the organizers for this opportunity. It's my absolute delight to be speaking here today. Today, for the first time in history, humankind is undergoing a collective experience. Physically distant, socially connected empathy, compassion, resourcefulness, innovation, alacrity of response, service before self have now come to the fore, heralding a new paradigm. We are at a momentous point in the cosmic scale of time where transformation is no longer an option. It is a global imperative. The need for healing, therefore, at the individual and the collective level can hardly be overemphasized. Like any other individual, we just heard Zindika's life story, inspirational, of course. My life has had its own share of ups and downs. So I have braved two major transformative experiences so far. The horror of genocide and uprooting, and the nightmare of a painful near-fatal accident. Healing through writing has helped me to emerge fairly unscathed, and I am therefore here to share my story of writing to heal. I hail from Kashmir. And when I look at Kashmir, my native region, I look at it with nostalgia, fondness, resentment, sense of loss, grief, and hope. The religious persecution that saw many members of my community abducted, raped, mutilated, and killed by religious fundamentalists deeply scarred me as a Kashmiri Pandit Hindu child. I was unable to comprehend and process the human trauma of being rendered a refugee in my own country in the year 1990. I had not emigrated to another country. I was a refugee in my own country. So as a preteen, a part of a 17 members household crammed into 3 rooms, braving the vagaries of nature and the uncertainty of infrastructure, life was a sudden riches to rags nightmare for me. And not just for me, to be honest, but also for my 500,000 strong Kashmiri Pandit Hindu community, the indigenous original inhabitants of the region, the Valley of Kashmir and the entire region. So whether it was a ploy to escape the harsh realities or as an inspiration from my mother, who would write in English, Hindi, Urdu, and Kashmiri, I suddenly started giving into my newly awakened interest in writing poetry. I mean, I would write on anything that took my fancy in those days, like a flower, a person, or even such inanimate objects, say a school bus. Writing led me into a state of trance, and it just became a purely personal pursuit of happiness. Perhaps this was the only one that we could afford. So my father encouraged me wholeheartedly. I mean, I would like to give credit to him. And he ensured that my poems got published in the local dailies. He would walk all the way to the newspaper offices in the scorching heat of Jammu because money had to be saved. So incidentally, writing to heal gave me my first lesson in independence and confidence. My father suggested that I should approach the school authorities and seek assistance so that the money that we were spending in getting my written poetry typewritten for submission to the newspaper offices gets handled in the school offices. Somebody from the clerical staff could perhaps help me in typing it. I was a 7th grader, but like at that point of time, I mean, you have that confidence. And I just went and I did as he advised. So my request was granted. This gesture, it might have been insignificant for them, but it meant a lot to me at many levels. It just guides my interaction with people even to this day, strangers or not. So a number of my poems got published in both the major dailies of Jammu during that period. I kept writing for the sheer joy of just to express myself uninhibitedly without any need to impress. You remember when I was a preteen? This was my first foray into writing to heal. Even though at that time, I think I was too young to observe and understand how I was channelizing this energy of trauma and grief into positive energy of creative expression. In January 2017, a biker rammed into me and I ended up with a fractured pelvis, a 5-centimeter wound on my skull, severe spasm in my neck, badly hit left limbs, completely bloated body, and sundry other injuries that rendered me completely immobile. Had 3 wonderful strangers not come to my rescue and got my head a stitch or 7 in time, I might have been a laminated, garlanded picture on the wall today, if you know what I mean. It took me quite some time to get back on my feet, both literally and figuratively. As I lay bewildered, first on the road and then on the hospital bed with painkillers pouring in constantly, I realized that I had only a finite amount of time to accomplish what I had come here for and share my message with the world. It was then that I transformed the image of the stitches on my shaved head into a piece of art to serve as a reminder and focus on my purpose. I decided to make the most of this new lease of life and promised myself that I will be what I have come to this world to be and not leave with regret about what I could have been. And the result, 7 stitches, 14 x-rays, 7 days of hospitalization, and 2 months of bed rest later was my debut book, an anthology of poems entitled Soul Call of Love and More. These poems on love were and are my message to the world of hope, optimism, learning, enrichment, evolution. The positive reviews that came pouring in filled me with delight and, of course, a renewed sense of purpose. Penning poems made me realize the power of writing in healing and instilling a sense of optimism, courage, and a positive outlook. I was so enthused by my personal example that I started to identify, encourage, mentor, handhold, and guide new authors and columnists and help them with the publication of their debut work. It has been my absolute privilege to have introduced 6 new authors and countless columnists so far, and I know that I will keep doing it till I breathe. During both of these major cathartic therapeutic experiences of writing to heal, I could feel the divine within and without in such a measure that I am in no doubt about the presence thereof. Emotionally, I was overwhelmed with relief, gratitude, and belief. Mentally, I became stronger than ever. I still continue to write to heal. I pour my heart out through words. I appreciate that words can be sweet melody as also poisonous barbs. I realize that it is for us to choose words wisely as potion and not poison, to heal and not to hurt. Writing to Heal has helped me become mindful of my expression, both verbal and non-verbal. I have learned not to speak butterfly language to caterpillar people. I have learned to love without my heart being abused. I have learned to give without being taken for granted. I have learned to trust without being naive. And I have learned to listen without losing my own expression. It has empowered me to choose carefully who all get the seat at the high table of my life. I now insist on changed behavior instead of mere apologies. Writing to Heal has helped me seek transformation instead of vengeance to make the world a better place for all sentient beings. Words are affirmations, I believe. We must choose ours carefully to alleviate pain, our own and that of others, and not to lacerate. Writing to Heal is a journey of self-exploration, of evolution. Not many people undertake it because they prefer the safety of the unknown to the uncertainty and insecurity, the safety of the known to the uncertainty and insecurity of the unknown. For everyone inspired to embark upon this journey, I can only wish that the honesty of their intent guides the curiosity of their talent. I would like to conclude with the reminder that words can be soothing and seething, withering and breathing, aggravating and calming, wounding and embalming, disparaging and encouraging, distracting and engaging. So with care, let's choose the words we use. May authenticity seal our writing to heal. Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity provided by WEF, and I look forward to learning from the other speakers in the subsequent sessions. Thank you.
That was truly wonderful. I'm so inspired by the two of you. People tell me that I'm good at writing, and I've been saying I must write, but I'm like truly inspired now, not just to write, but to look at writing as healing, really. And I must say, both your stories are so transformative, so poignant and so touching, so transformational. I actually had goosebumps listening to you. That was terrific. And of course, you've got this wonderful poetic language, so one can keep listening to you. You can go on and on. But unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of that kind of time. So I now have the pleasure and the privilege of presenting to the two of you, first to Zindika Kamaosi.
Kamaosi.
Okay, Zindika Kamaosi, the award, on behalf of WEF, the award Iconic Woman Creating a Better World for All. This is a virtual award. The citation, the soft copy will come to you in a while. And I also have the pleasure of presenting the award Iconic Woman Creating a Better World for All, again, on behalf of WEF, to Dimple Kaul. Thank you, lovely ladies. It's been really eye-opening for me. It's been a wonderful, wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been great. Namaste. Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Hello, Dr. Shweta.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, this is Vidya. Good evening. I will be your moderator, and I think we've got only one speaker in this session, so you have a little extra time, which I think we can take advantage of. So what we could do is you can speak, and after that, I'll probably ask you a few questions.
Sure.
Try and respond. So let me give a quick introduction before we start. So I'm going to keep the introduction short in the interest of time. And if you want to share something more about yourself as you speak, please feel free to do so. Good day to all of you out there. Welcome again to this session on emotional quotient needed for a caregiver. That's the topic for this afternoon. And to speak on this topic, we have with us Dr. Shweta Vikram, who is a dental surgeon, actually a multifaceted dental surgeon, I must say. She has interests in music. She's a trained classical singer. She loves traveling and she learns through her travels. She's an avid reader and she also enjoys cooking. Over to you, Shweta.
Thank you so much. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, since all of you participants are from all over the world. Let me start. It is not how much you do, but how much you love you put into the doing, said Mother Teresa. Rightly so. So emotional quotient is the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others to overcome challenges. The word caregiver speaks for itself. Caregiving often calls us to lean into love that we didn't know possible. The disease might hide the person underneath, but there is still a person who needs your love and attention.
Shweta, sorry to come in. There's a little bit of noise, some kind of disturbance at your end. Could you bring the speaker closer?
Sure, I'll do that.
Use your earphones, might just help.
Yeah. Just a minute. Can you hear me better now?
Little bit of sounds like the wind somehow. Little bit of background noise.
Just a second. Is it better now? Hello?
It's fine. It's absolutely fine.
So let me restart since the audibility was not good. So it's not how much you do, but how much you love you put in the doing, said Mother Teresa. And emotional quotient is the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others to overcome challenges. The word caregiver speaks for itself. Caregiving often calls us to lean into love we didn't know possible. The disease might hide the person underneath, but there is still a person who needs your love and attention. So try to be a rainbow in someone's cloud. I was fortunate enough to live with my grandparents for a larger part of my life. And looking back, their presence has enriched my life in more ways than I can imagine. And my paternal grandmother had faced serious medical issues and was confined to bed for most part of her life. And I don't recall her walking without aids. And my mother took care of her mostly. I watched how she beautifully balanced home, her career, and also being physically and emotionally present for my grandmother. And I didn't understand the depth or the difficulty to hit this balance back then. But now that I'm older and I manage a family of my own, I realize it now. It's definitely not easy. My grandmother was a very adorable and sweet person, but she was petrified of any sort of medical issues, which made treatment and prognosis that much more difficult. So in such cases, a lot of positive reinforcement and encouragement is needed. And it is imperative for the caregiver to be patient and to understand the mental status of the person involved. Their fears and mental blocks are real, although they may seem irrelevant to us. And nursing care is different from the role of a caregiver. Nursing care involves a degree of medical attention as well, the extent of which depends on the status of the patient. So it is difficult to provide nursing care to play the role of a caregiver and also don other responsibilities such as being a wife, a mother, or balancing a career of their own and give full justice to all of these roles. So that's where the importance of hiring a help comes to one's rescue. At first, you need to identify that you need additional help apart from your own and accept help when it's provided. You don't have to try to be a superhero every time. My paternal grandfather was diagnosed with Parkinson's plus, which is a neurodegenerative disease which attacks brain and nerve cells. So along with the physical challenges on a day-to-day basis, he also started forgetting people, his own kith and kin. I have seen him as a very active and agile person, so this was a devastating time for us. But we managed to keep our chins up and decided to battle the disease the best possible way that we could. We used to put up pictures of family pictures and writings on the walls of his bedroom to help him recollect his past and remember all of us. Like, for example, my name is so and so, my son's name is so and so. He forgot who he was, he forgot his name, he forgot all of us. So this helped. On occasions when it didn't, he used to address my mother as his office secretary or me as his childhood friend. We just used to play along and share a laugh or two as he recollected his childhood memories. At the end of the day, keeping him comfortable and happy was all that mattered. So as per the neurologist advice, we started physiotherapy for him, and we needed to take him for multiple checkups. And it was becoming increasingly difficult given the muscle degeneration and other problems associated with the disease. So a few times we had to take him in an ambulance, and it was a toll on him, and he used to get really tired at the end of the day. So we started making videos of him walking or, during his physical therapy sessions. And we used to send the videos to the doctor, and he used to play them and modify the dosages of the drugs or change the treatment plan accordingly based on his
the voice is breaking up.
Of travel and also the waiting period at the doctor's clinic. So we can on a day-to-day basis. Such situations can be emotionally okay. Is it okay now?
It's okay now. You are breaking up, so I think you're fine.
Such situations can be emotionally exhausting, especially when you have too much on your plate. Always have patience and love, and don't feel guilty about taking time off for yourself. As important as it is to be compassionate and patient, it is also extremely important that you don't burn out. Sustenance is the key here, because in most cases, caregiving is a long-term challenge, and not just for people not just in situations where the caregiver in concern is also managing a career of his or her own. Even a homemaker should take time out for herself. So after all, the entire household runs on her shoulders. And it is very easy to be drawn into the mundane routine and not realize that you're actually burning yourself out. So when your shoulders start feeling too heavy, you should take time out, go for a drive, sing, dance, anything. So recall your favorite things and indulge in them once in a while. Recharging one's batteries, I think, is very important for a caregiver. And it is not always a rosy picture. And do you know it is doubly difficult to take care of a patient who is also a doctor himself? We were faced with this unfortunate situation with my maternal grandfather when he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a type of malignancy. Although he diagnosed himself very early and initiated treatment immediately, we were unlucky that the condition relapsed in a deadlier fashion. And being a doctor himself, he knew exactly how the disease would progress, which didn't make things easy at all. And ironic as it may sound, you don't expect a doctor to fall sick. So in my eyes, he was always invincible. So watching him get smaller and weaker with every chemotherapy was heart-wrenching. but it wasn't the time to get emotional and give up. So as a family, we stood by him, tried to raise his spirits up, kept our emotional support going, and he continued practice till his very end and treated patients until his last day. And he is the most dedicated and disciplined person I've ever met, and is the sole reason that I'm a dentist today. And whether you become a caregiver gradually or all of a sudden because of a crisis, whether you become one willingly or by default, I think many emotions surface when you take up the job. So whatever your situation, it is important that to remember that you too are important. All of your emotions, good and bad, about caregiving are not only allowed but valid and relevant as well. So it is common to lose it while providing care, acceptable even, I think. So in such situations, when it happens, forgive yourself. How do you cope with the emotional and physical stress that comes with caregiving? So there are various online support groups, self-help groups, which you can be part of to derive some emotional support, or even ideas how to manage some difficult physical situations.
I think there's a connectivity issue again.
And like, for example, for Alzheimer's, there is Alzheimer's Association. These are just few examples. There are various others for emotional support.
Dr. Shweta, we lost the last few sentences. We lost you on the last few sentences. Last couple of sentences. There was a lag.
I'll restart with the online support group.
Yeah.
So I was just talking about ways and means you can cope with physical and emotional stress that comes with caregiving. There are various online support groups and self-help groups that you can be part of for emotional support, or even ideas on how to manage certain difficult situations. Like, for example, for Alzheimer's disease, there's Alzheimer's Association support group or Memory People. These are just few examples. And for cancer, there is Cancer Sahyog, which is an emotional support group initiated by Indian Cancer Society, Delhi. These are just few examples. There are various other support groups for specific diseases which you can be part of to vent for emotional support. And just to give you the feeling that you're not battling with something like this all alone, there are people all around the world facing situations similar to yours. And small changes in lifestyle to make things easier, like moving around furniture to create more room for easy mobility, fixing handrails on bedroom and bathroom walls, making sure that the floor is not slippery, removing latches and bolts from doors so the patient doesn't accidentally lock themselves in. This is especially important for people, suffering from dementia or other neurologically related diseases. And railings on sides of bed to prevent the patient from falling off, and intercom bell for assistance. See, a caregiver cannot be 24/7 with the patient. So in such cases, this helps to call for immediate assistance. And I feel it's like baby proofing your apartment when you expect a baby. And this is a situation similar to that. And it is also important to make sure that the patient doesn't feel completely dependent on the caregiver, because it can be a frustrating situation. Put yourself in their shoes. You wouldn't want to be completely dependent on X or Y, or even if they are your family members, it would be irritating and frustrating for you. So small changes like this can go a long way in making the patient comfortable and also the life of the caregiver easy. And set realistic goals. It's not possible to nurse your grandmother all morning, rush to back-to-back meetings, and then attend your child's school play, and then come back and throw a party for your niece, whip up a fancy meal for your husband all in one day. It's physically not possible. So let's be realistic here and delegate when you can. And arrange for a substitute caregiver. In situations where additional nursing care is needed, you need to hire help. And first, you need to identify that you need additional help. And then comes the part when you need to hire help and accept help when it's provided. And in many cases, patients need round-the-clock assistance, like the onus of feeding, bathing, and all the primary care needs falls basically on the caregiver. And this is a 24/7, 365-day-a-year job, and there is no holiday. So one can hire help for a few hours in a day and or specific days of the week so that you can take some time off. I think you deserve it. So you can't pour from an empty cup, as I was talking about earlier. It is important that you take care of yourself as well. Now, wouldn't it be nice to be an eternal optimist and for a caregiver who never gets frustrated? Maybe there are caregivers like that. Maybe you are one of them. I applaud your emotional strength if you are one. But however, many of us who provide care for aging or ill loved ones don't fall into that category. I know I don't. So I know of many caregivers who are frustrated and emotionally exhausted. Not that they are not compassionate people. They are very compassionate people, but I think that they haven't dealt with their emotions the right. And all the more when the caregiver themselves aren't young, so they have physical and health issues to battle with themselves, and your health does take a toll. So it starts with losing sleep, physical stress, mental exhaustion, and so on and so forth. You should find constructive ways of expressing yourself. One shouldn't suffer in silence. Involve family. So don't be a one man army. I think caregiving is not a single person's job. It's a family effort. So sometimes the one who has been there for everybody else needs someone to be there for them as well. So this way, healthcare, primary care is not compromised, and also the primary caregiver does not reach physical and emotional exhaustion. So I feel that caregiving is an art. Acknowledge that not many are blessed compassion, patience, and strength that most caregivers must possess. I call myself extremely lucky to have had life. Over the years, I think I have learned to strike the balance to provide the care necessary. Without losing myself in the process. I think the key is to practice detached attachment. It is imperative that you learn when to switch off, hand over the reins to a substitute caregiver, step back even for a brief period just to recharge your batteries and come back. This is in the best interest of the loved one in concern and yourself. I thank WEF and everyone involved in this wonderful effort for this opportunity to speak about something which is very close to my heart. Thank you all for patiently listening.
Thank you, Dr. Shweta. That was surely straight from the heart and a very enriching story. And I'm sure all of us, at some point or the other, have either been patients or caregivers, or on both sides. I've definitely been on both sides, can resonate with a lot of what you're saying. I just have, since we have a little bit of time, I have a couple of questions which I thought I can ask you. So you did talk about the importance of taking time out. So did you, as a caregiver, especially during those intense periods, did you set up any kind of regular practice of, say, meditation or anything that worked for you that enabled you to recharge yourself?
I was a student when my grandparents were not well.
Okay.
And so it was, like I said, it was a family effort. My mother was the primary caregiver, but all of us pitched in when we could. And we used to divide the time that, make sure that all enough rest and ample rest, and my grandparents also get the enough attention that is needed. And now as grandmother at home, I am working currently. And I think it's about giving enough time for all aspects of your life and also to be there when they essentially need you. I try to balance my work timings so that I'm around when they need me. And I think with practice, with time, one can adapt to the situation easily.
So you're saying it's not absolutely necessary that one must have some kind of practice of, say, music or meditation or something that helps you lose yourself, helps you unwind completely. How did your mother cope, for instance? Did she have any such thing, or she just kept herself going?
Sorry, your question wasn't very
I'm saying, so I'm saying, is it like...
sorry, ma'am, your question.
Hello?
Yes, yes. Now I can hear you.
Yeah. So my question was, so is it that it's not necessary to have a practice that you set up for yourself, like some meditation or music or whatever you can use yourself in, so that you can unwind? Is it that you can manage just by, like you said, scheduling different times where different people take care and so on? I'm just wondering, how did your mother cope with all of this?
She was working then, and she managed her career. She put up the office very close to home so that she can come and go when things at home are a little dicey. But I feel that whether you have a career of your own or you are a homemaker, you must have other avenues where, it's just time for yourself.
Right.
You need time out. You cannot just be a primary caregiver 24/7, because
Absolutely.
somebody who has done this job will be able to agree with me. It's emotionally exhausting. It's physically extremely stressful. And I enjoy doing it. Not that I don't. I enjoy being a caregiver. But for anybody doing this, I think they should take time out for themselves every day, at least minimal time even. Just to recharge and come back, because it's difficult to do this 24/7. Like I said, there is no holiday. You can take time off from work, you can take time off from school, you can take time off from studies, but this, the person needs you 24/7.
There's a lag
So
again.
you just have to find a way to time off for yourself. That's where. Is it better now? Were you able to hear me?
Yeah, well, there was a bit of a lag. Yeah, we're okay now. Yeah, so what do you do during that time off? Is it necessary to set up some practice? Is my question. Or you can just by putting yourself away from the situation, is that good enough?
It depends on whether you have a career of your own, or you can just indulge in one of your interests: music, dance, even meeting people. And it depends on whether what your interests are, and whether you have a career of your own to attend to. And in any case, you need to do something to unwind, to do something that take time off and come back, so that if it is a mundane sort of routine. So you'll be able to be a better caregiver when you take time off and come back. uh, I think it is completely necessary to at least give some time off for your interest, to pursue your passions as well in the time that you get off.
The other question I have is, okay, your managing your emotions is one thing, but how do you also manage? You're not just managing the patient in terms of physiological symptoms. You're also managing their emotions, right? There are periods when they go through huge frustration, just the feeling of helplessness, and so one is not really trained for all these things. You're just sort of trying to cope,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then there are relationship dynamics with people that are very close to you. How do you manage those?
I don't think any of us are trained. Most of us aren't trained to be a caregiver. We just learn on the go. And we've had medical issues, starting from neurologically related issues to malignancy. And having gone through so much, I'll be able to tell you that each patient is different, each person is different. You will face a lot of criticism, a lot of difficulties from family members themselves.
Right.
And a patient's emotional status changes every day. One day they'll be extremely happy and happy with their status. Next day they'll be extremely depressed. And you just have to take it by the day. There is no set rule or set equation to handle things. You just have to take it as the day comes. You need to have a lot of patience, and a lot of you need to provide hope that sometimes things may not improve, but you need to give the hope to the patient that it's not at the end of the day, things are actually better. And you just need to provide that care and make sure that they are happy at the end of the day. and each day is different, and each patient is different. So there's no set equation to set way to deal with a patient. You just learn it on the go.
Okay, one last question is, how do you try and create a normal life around for everybody else? Okay, these are typically very long drawn periods of illness, right? One person is ill, but then there are children, there are the people of different age groups, and people have to live their lives also. A simple thing like a birthday party. I mean, so there'll be. So how do you do these? And
Yes.
how do you manage the, sort of straddle these areas?
I think family adapts very easily, especially children adapt very easily. I have a 6-year-old son at home, and he's learning to be a better caregiver than me. I'm very happy about it, because he's seen me take care of the aged ones at home, and for him it's become the way of life. And we sort of adjust our I wouldn't call it adjust, we live accordingly. We're happy doing it, and he is also adapted exceptionally well. And I think it's the mindset. It's about living with difficult situations. Initially it is difficult when you're a caregiver for the first time, or the initial days of the crisis. You learn to adapt, you learn to live around the situations, and you make the best of it. And having said that, my son is very close to his grandmother, and there are times when she doesn't remember him. There are times when she doesn't remember me. But my son deals with it extremely well. He plays along. So whomever he addresses him, she addresses him as, he plays along. So it's like a drama at home. So it's surprising that children are able to adapt so well. I think we should learn a lot from them. So it's just living by the day, and I don't think it's that difficult at all. It's just the way your mindset.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dr. Shweta. Am I audible to you? The video is frozen.
Thank you so much.
This is you clearly.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible now. Yeah, a little patchy, but yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
So you clearly have dealt with multiple cases in your family, still dealing with, and sort of a veteran of sorts in this. I'm sure there have been some very useful insights that people can pick up from this. I found that very, very practical approach to the whole thing, and it's so nice that you keep your cheerful demeanor despite whatever you've had or still going through and so on, and managing to have a career which is again, I'm sure, a very taxing career. Dental surgeon is not something that's easy. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you for the wonderful questions. I was able to elaborate a little more in my mind, so thank you for that as well.
We had the luxury of time, so I was able to do that. Thank you so much for your open and honest sharing. Before we close, I have the honor and privilege of presenting to you, on behalf of WEF, Dr. Shweta Vikram, the award of Iconic Woman, Creating a Better World for All. And I think this award, the way it's worded, truly takes on a very different and deep meaning from the point of view of what you've been sharing, caregiving, truly creating a better world for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The soft copy of the award will come to you.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you and good day.